Hello and welcome to the Motherhood Village podcast. I am on with a very special guest. I have Autumn McKay, who is an early childhood educator and an author. Recognizing the burnout that can accompany motherhood, Autumn developed the Full Life Gratitude Journal for Moms to help others find joy and mindfulness in their daily lives. Beyond education and parenting, she finds joy in outdoor activities with her family, dream vacation planning, and immersing herself in the pages of captivating books. And I know you also wrote some activity books, so I'm so excited to dive in. So, welcome, Autumn. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Okay, so first I always ask my guests to mention a favorite book or one that has made an impact on you.
There are so many, so it's really hard to choose just one. Let me think. So, one that I really like and I recommend to a lot of parents is Wild Things: The Art of Nurturing Boys. It just really helped me to understand my boys and like what they're going through developmentally and mentally, so that I can meet them where they are. But right now I'm reading The Anxious Generation, which is so good. It just helps understand how phones have affected kids and their development. So that one is really, really good.
Is it really eye-opening too?
Oh yes.
Oh.
It's like made me want to like make my phone really dumb.
I was going to say, I'm sure there's also some self-reflection, right? Of like, yes, it's
Yes,
the generation of our children and their children's children, but what about our addiction with the phone and everything? Like I
exactly.
try and make an excuse, not an excuse, but if my son is saying something and I'm like, well, this is mommy's like mini computer. And to some extent it is, but what am I modeling if I'm also always like, oh, I have to answer this email, I have to answer this text. So I have to check that out.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to dive in. So you're an early childhood educator now. Do you still practice? Are you still a teacher?
No,
Mm,
I homeschool 3 days a week. So my kids go
okay.
to a hybrid school. So I'm their teacher, but I'm not in the classroom anymore.
In the classroom setting. And I'm sure we can have a whole conversation about that transition, but I want to get to the reason why we're here because I've talked to a couple of moms who have made that transition. And one woman, just a quick tidbit, her kids are all graduated from college now, but all four of her kids she homeschooled and they all graduated from Ivy League schools. So there's such profound and such like inspiration with that. So, but that'll be another podcast episode. Okay, so you mentioned the book about raising sons, and I know you are a mom of two boys,
Yep, two
two
boys.
boys, and you're an educator and all the things. How do you navigate, and is there a delicate balance between love and respect in the mother-son relationship? Because obviously you're not a man, so you can't say what the difference is in being a father to a son and vice versa. But I guess in an experience of raising two boys, what have you found? Is there a difference? Is there navigation? Are there parents of boys? You know, do you recommend parents of boys, including myself? I have a little guy. What are things that we should know about that and how to nurture that relationship?
So it's not easy because like women are designed to give love. That's how we're designed. We show love through our nurture and in return we want to receive love. But men and boys are designed to give respect and they want to receive respect. That's how they feel loved. So I often have to remind myself that boys desire respect. They don't want all the like mushy kisses and things like that. That's not how they like receive love. They want to hear, I'm proud of you. I respect that you made this choice. You did a good job solving this problem. Those types of things instead of, I love you. You're so cute. Like that's not how they're geared. And when they're disrespectful, we need to try to remain respectful by saying, I'm not trying to disrespect you, but I do not respect such and such thing that you did. And I think to build that relationship of developing respect, I think you need to spend quality time together. This is especially true as our sons get older, because as they get older, they're going to pull away from you, especially moms. They tend to lean towards more father figures or their dads.
Sure.
And so we are often not interested in the same things that our boys are. So we just need to like push ourselves to show an interest in the things that they are interested in. So like dirt and bugs and cars and all the things that have no interest of ours. And we just need to like notice what they have an interest in and appreciate the things that they like. And it's best if you do these activities shoulder to shoulder. So I did an experiment with my oldest, and like we went on a mother-son date, and each activity that we did, we played a board game and we just went for pizza. And I was like, all right, do you want me to sit in front of you or beside you? And each time he picked beside, like it was less threatening
Sure.
if he had to make eye contact, and more enjoyable if we got to sit shoulder to shoulder. So they're more likely to open up if you sit shoulder to shoulder doing the activity, the thing that they enjoy. And then boys are problem solvers. So like if you're talking to your husband or something, he wants to solve that problem for you. So little boys are the same way, and they want to help you solve your problem. So give them a chance to solve your problem, even if you know the answer or how to fix the situation. Just let them help you, and so that they can feel respected and proud.
I love that. And I think, of course, we'll make a disclaimer here that not all boys are going to be that way, just like all girls aren't going to be, right? We understand that.
Exactly.
But I
Yes.
think there is something to say that there is a direct correlation between and a difference between the sexes. I mean, if you have a husband, if you're friends with males, like there is a difference. What I have noticed, and what are the ages of your two boys?
10 and 8.
Okay, so I have a 6-year-old, and my husband is constantly reminding me because he is a little mama's boy, and we do hear that. He's like, you do know at some point he's going to pull away. He's like,
Mm-hmm.
at some point he's going to pull away, and either, him and I will get closer, or, he's going to kind of find his own way. What I've heard, and tell me if this is true, I guess to sum it up, is that yes, maybe it's less of the like, oh, you're so cute, and less of this, and more of like they have to control it when they feel it. So, like, my son is sensitive. My son, is he loves his little nurturing, like our little cuddles, but it has to be when he feels ready for it. So, if like I'm like, oh, can mommy, he's 6, so I still kiss his little feet. So I'm like, can mommy kiss your little feet? And he's like, no, mom, because he's like watching TV and he's not in the mood. But then there will be times where we're cuddling, and the minute I'm like smooching him up, and he's like all for it. So I think
Yes.
there's something to say, like they still have to lead. They have to be in control of that.
I agree with that, because my oldest, he'll most of the time he's like, no, no hugs. But then every now and then he'll like, can you scratch my back? So yes, I think it is something that they have to choose.
They have to choose her. And I would, maybe that should be a podcast guest, right? Like bringing on a psychiatrist, like a brain person to say this is why, because I'm sure there is something to say to that. But I love your point of kind of like letting it flow. And I guess for any moms listening, if your little is turning into a big, to not take it personally,
Right.
like
Yes.
just you're there, and that at some point they will come back and ask you for a hug and want to snuggle and cuddle and all the things. Talk to me though, what have you found, like the whole manhood? Like we hear the manhood because I'm also in our household, we don't really have, or we haven't had specific gender roles, right? Like I am the cook because I enjoy cooking, but if my husband has to cook, he'll make something, right? He takes out the trash. It wasn't specifically brought that way, but it's just kind of the dynamic that we have. But
Right.
I'm also trying to raise my son, as is my husband, of like, hey, if you have to cook a meal, you have to cook a meal. If I have to take the trash out because daddy's not there, like we kind of show that. How do you balance that? I guess because we are kind of more in our feminine energy of like helping them come into their manhood. Do you think there is something to say that because we are nurturers, that we do also help them, I guess to a certain degree, tap into their manhood based on us nurturing them because we allow them to kind of have that? Maybe touch upon that a little bit. I know you're not a psychiatrist, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's part of our job as nurturing mom to like help them, guide them to their manhood, because like who else is going to show them to how to be sensitive to their future wife, or even like you were saying, like a man might have to cook a meal every now and then. And I think it's a great opportunity for your boys to be in the kitchen with you and learn even life skills, how to cook his
Yes.
own meal and things like that. So yeah, I think it is part of the mom's job to nurture him into manhood so that he can learn how to be a successful man later.
Yeah, and how to be a good father and how to be,
Yeah.
to show to if he has, sons and daughters. Okay, so my next question for you is, as someone who has successfully kind of balanced motherhood with a thriving career, you're an author, you are also educator, now you're homeschooling. What strategies have you found most effective in striking that balance between nurturing your family but also pursuing your passion? And maybe just share some tips for any fellow moms trying to juggle. I do have quite a few moms that are in my group, my WhatsApp chat that have talked about the homeschooling option and what is the right choice for them. But I know that takes time and just like anything else, right? So talk to me about how you juggle the different things and maybe some like time management strategies or things that work for you.
Yeah, so I'm not sure I've mastered it, but I'm doing the
we
best that I
we're still
can.
another half. Yes.
And I keep learning new things with each new season of life. So I think as long as you're willing to learn and adapt, I think that is a good skill to have as a mom. But I would say my top three tips would be to have a routine. Routines help everyone, you and your kids, and even your husband, know what's going on. It helps things run more smoothly and it helps you feel productive because you have expectations and you can meet those expectations and goals each day. My second tip would be to delegate, whether that is asking your husband or your kids to pitch in, asking a neighbor or your mother in law or someone to come keep your kids for a couple of hours each week, hiring a house cleaner, or even hiring like a mother's helper, like a high school student that comes and sits with your kids or does odds and end chores around your house. I had to learn the hard way that I can't do everything. So, or I would literally never sleep. So I had to learn to ask for help. Like we have a village of people that want to help us, but we just have to be willing to ask for that help. Yeah. So if you need to say no to things that you can't do, then say no to those things as well. So my third tip would be to give yourself grace. You're going to mess up. And when you do, just ask for forgiveness and just try your best the next time. We are so good at giving our kids grace when they mess up, but we don't give ourselves grace when we mess up. We just like feel guilt and shame, and that's not what how we should feel because we're learning, we're trying our best, and that's all we can do.
Yeah, it's like anytime we give tips on here, it's like, yes, it sounds so easy to do. But I think to your point, yeah, like we do have to hear it often because I think it has to continue to drill in our minds. Like it's okay to ask for help. The delegation thing is a huge one for me. And I do even have an admin, someone that kind of helps me like with my administrative stuff. And I'm like, why do I still feel like I need to like do everything? Like I either
Right.
have to teach her the proper way or like really break it down because that's not what I'm paying her to do. I'm paying her to do a task, but I think it's innate in us like, oh, well, we'll just do it. We'll figure it out. And there's something to say to delegate, or as you said, like even talking to your partner and being like, listen, I need help with this. Like it all boils down to communication and saying, I need this help. Can you support me in this? And in whatever that looks like.
Yep.
So resilient families. And we're going to talk about, your life gratitude journal and the activity books that you've created because I'm excited to hear kind of the inspiration behind them. But apparently resilience and strength are evident themes in your stories. How do you believe parents can instill these qualities, or how have you tried to instill them in your own children to form a really resilient family dynamic? Can you share any personal anecdotes or strategies that you found particularly effective in building resilience within your own family, with yourself, and with your boys?
Yeah. So I think one of the biggest things that we have tried to implement in our family is finding gratitude. It's something my husband and I we didn't learn until later in life. So we wanted to make sure that our kids got an early start with being grateful for the things that they have and the things that they do. And so each night at dinner, we go around and we say something that we're thankful for, whether it's a big thing or a little thing. And it's really fun to hear their answers because sometimes it's like super silly that they're thankful for the ketchup they have with their dinner, or sometimes it's like really touching where it's I'm thankful that I got to play with my sister and we created this awesome Lego jungle. And then I think another thing that has been really good for our family with building resilience is that we've been trying to not solve our kids' problems for them. It's easy as a parent because you have life experience and it's just easier if you tell them what to do, but it's often not better for them because I think it helps them to know that they can face a challenge and they can come up with the solution themselves. And so that later when they come to another challenge, they can come up with a solution even if we're not there. So we talk them through it, we guide them through it, but ultimately we try to let them come up with the best solution for any problem that they face.
I think that's a big one. Are you familiar with Dr. Amen, who
Yeah,
wrote the
yeah,
Raising Healthy, Resilient Kids and or Healthy, Mentally Strong Kids or something like
yeah.
that?
I
And
just read that
I've
book.
been Yes, I'm actually, it's on my Kindle to read. And I think to your point, like that's a big one. And as I was like listening to him, because once I find someone like that, I kind of go down a rabbit hole of like, well, let me hear what are they really who they say, like, are they really this expert?
Right.
And I love his approach. I've now watched quite a few videos of him. And I think to your point, what it boils down to, like a lot of what you said, like that truly is one of the main parts. I think sometimes, or not even sometimes, I think this millennial parenting, we're so overwhelmed with so many like things, right? Our
Mm,
own brains that, yeah, not only is it just easier because we feel like we have the experience and we know better, but then it's also because we also are just drained ourselves. So it's like the patience to wait. But to your point, it actually makes it more counterproductive because if our goal, truthfully, I would imagine every parent's goal is not only to raise like happy, stable citizens of the world, but also for them to go out on their own in that way and do it. We can't solve all the problems. So it's almost like
exactly.
us doing that is counterproductive to their growth. So when he says it, and you even mentioning it's like it makes sense, but in the moment, we almost automatically want to go to fix it without realizing the detriment of doing that because they're not learning how to solve or they're not learning how to be uncomfortable. They're not learning how to make any problem solving skills. So I'm glad that you mentioned that because I think that's a big thing that needs to be talked about more because we're heading to the generation where parents are just so overwhelmed that it's like, forget about
Mm,
it, I'll do it. And we want to fix or give the iPad or give things without like just pausing and allowing them to figure it out themselves.
right. Yes.
Okay, so your journals. So talk to me about the inspiration behind writing the journal and even talk to me about the activity books that you've created. Like talk to me about what came upon that, why you decided to take that route. And then I want to then to part two of that is how have you seen moms use a journal? How has it helped you? How have you seen it benefiting moms?
So I'll start with the activity books because it kind of leads into the journal. Since I have a background in education, I wanted my time at home with my kids to be intentional. And coming from a teaching background, I'm like a big planner. And like, so I laid out all these activities that I wanted to do to teach my kids. And I posted it on the refrigerator. And so it was just like one activity a day. But so my husband saw all that I had like planned out and the fun that my son and I were having and how much he was learning. And so he recommended that I write a book and share all the activities with other moms. And after much pushing, I decided to actually do it. And so it's just all the activity books are things that my kids and I have done together. So we did learning colors, learning ABCs, and then there's a bunch of like themed books where it's space and butterflies and cooking and engineering and things like that.
Very cool.
And yeah, so it goes all the way to like how to teach your child to read. And then in the midst of that, while I was being mom and being a wife and running a household and running a new business and things like that, I obviously overwhelmed myself and got burned out. And I didn't know what burnout was at that time. And so I just knew I didn't like myself in that moment. I was just like very negative when I would wake up and kind of like cranky and snappy at my kids and my husband over silly things that would normally not irritate me. And I didn't like myself and I didn't really know how to get out of that funk that I was in. So my husband, he's a avid podcast listener, and at that time, he was listening to a lot of entrepreneurs podcasts because we had just started our business. And he said that there were a lot of entrepreneurs that start their day with gratitude. And my husband, he gets up really early in the morning and goes to the gym. And so before he goes to the gym, he had started practicing gratitude. And I noticed like a shift in his mindset, how he was treating me and the kids. And so at that time, we had only been married 8 years, and he had never done a dish at all in that time of marriage. And so he started doing the dishes in the morning before he would go to the gym because he knew it was something that I did not enjoy at all. And so I was like, all right, what is going on? And so he shared with me how he was practicing gratitude. And I was like, okay, well, I've noticed this change in you. So maybe it's something I should try. And so I started trying it, and I, not immediately, but over a couple of weeks, I noticed a shift in my mindset as well. I was starting to look for positive things to be grateful for the next day. And I wasn't waking up angry and or just I wasn't like waking up irritated. And so it was working. However, as a mom and a woman, my brain is very like spaghetti noodles where I think about one thing, but it connects to something else. So I would think, I'm grateful for this warm house that we live in, but oh, I need to dust today. So in order to help combat that, I made the journal. By writing things down, it helps me to stay focused on what I'm grateful for. But also in the journal, it gives me a spot to write down like a short term goal, like one thing I want to accomplish that day that would help me feel productive. It gives me a spot to write down a long term goal so that I can like push myself. And it gives me a spot to write down a prayer or reflection. And then also, I'd get to write down a win that I had for the day or something that I learned that day. So yeah, that's how I came to the journal and the activity books.
I love that. And I love how you're like, yeah, I need it. Yeah, gratitude has been something big for me too. I mean, I'm always like, I feel like I'm in gratitude all the time, right? I try and pray randomly and all the things, but I should say since I started journaling, and I'm probably still not doing it every single morning, but for the past month, April, I was a little bit more, and I've done some in May. Like while I just wake up in the morning instead of grabbing my phone, like I'll just put almost like an affirmation, almost like a kind of my thought, nothing negative, but it could be like, I am, I am grateful for all that I have right now. I am looking forward to this. A lot of I am and this, and I am feeling this. And it does make a difference. It's actually very crazy. And I don't know if it's a placebo effect. I don't know. Because like I said, I think I'm a pretty optimistic person. I'm always believing the glass is half full. I'm always someone who is like, all right, look at the bright side, and that just is how I am. And I still felt like I could have been a little bit more to start my day on like a higher note. So that's awesome that you have an actual book for that because I just have a notebook, but that's cool that it's like listen, not only can you write your prompt or what you're grateful for, but also here's a goal that I have, because then it's almost doing like the double vision board thing where you're like, here's
Right.
what you're grateful for, and then here is what you're like manifesting, here's what you're putting out into the universe. Okay, so share how people can purchase the journal, purchase the books, how they can connect with you.
So you can find me at bestmomideas.com. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram under Best Mom Ideas. And then you can find all my books on my website or on Amazon or Walmart or Barnes and Noble. But I do have a freebie for all your listeners so that if you want to just grab that, then you're welcome to grab that. It's the Ultimate Mom Saver Activity Bundle, and it's 6 free activities from one of my books and then 6 free coloring pages from one of my husband's books.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much. I
So yeah.
appreciate that. I'll put that in the show notes too, and when I post on social media and the newsletter so everyone knows. Okay, so I always I'll allow my guests to kind of share any final thoughts or anything that you're like, hey, if you listen to this episode, I want, you to understand that of all of this, this is what I want to be the takeaway.
So, like I said earlier, I think one of my biggest things that I want moms to understand is to give yourself grace, because that's one of the things that I've needed the most for myself. And so I want other moms to know that you deserve grace as well. Like, you don't have to be perfect at everything that you do. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Autumn, for coming on, for sharing your story. And yeah, I'm excited for the pages and continued blessings to you for love and light. Thank you.